Everyone, welcome to History on Trial and Science on Trial in the Community Classroom. This is Dr. Tracey McCarthy. We are going to be addressing a number of health-related issues going forward. And so it's important to make a distinction between when we are talking about medicine and when we are talking about psychology. And so we're going to be distinguishing between medical science and psychological science so that you will know what those distinctions are as we are talking about a number of issues as we go forward. And to do this, we are going to look at some etymology. We're going to look at some of the symbolism attached to these two disciplines. And this is going to include a little bit of history related to each of these disciplines, medicine and psychology, and the inclusion of scripture. So many people might be surprised to find that both of them are actually included in scripture, and we're going to look at a little bit of that too. And I want to thank the individual who brought up the issue of symbolism as it relates to the medical symbols. You have many people going by the name doctor, that title, and it can apply to a number of people. And so a doctor might relate to a person who is related to the clergy. It might relate to a person who is considered a scholar or a teacher, and it also might relate to someone who is considered a healer. And so we're going to talk about two doctors, and those doctors are medical doctors and psychological doctors, so that you'll, again, have a better sense of the history and the foundations of those two disciplines. We're going to start off talking about the symbolism attached to the field of medicine. Now, medicine has a much more interesting story in terms of their symbolism. The symbols for medicine both involve snakes or serpents. And so one is the caduceus, and that's on the left-hand side. And then at the bottom right-hand side, you see the comparison of the Asclepius symbol and then the caduceus. And Asclepius was the son of Coronis, a Greek goddess. Hermes is the god attached to the caduceus, which is on the left-hand side. And Hermes was the ancient Greek god related to trade and wealth and luck and sleep and thievery and travel. So Hermes represents quite a bit there, and also symbolizes this sort of merging between humanity and the world of the gods. Now, there are multiple explanations related to this serpent symbolism dynamic going on with medicine, and some of it revolves around this idea of the serpent being the thing that causes the harm, but also the thing that causes the relief from the harm, also considered healing. And so that is some of the explanation. There are some other explanations that suggest a number of other things that also relate to this idea of the divine feminine. Now, this is very interesting because according to Sigmund Freud and psychoanalytic theory, both of these symbols would be suggestive of phallic symbols. And so for the caduceus, you have what would be representing three phallic symbols, one in the middle and then two with the serpents wrapping around. And with the other symbol, with the one stick and then the one serpent, that would still be two phallic symbols, which represent male generative powers. And so it's interesting that sometimes these are seen as relating to the divine feminine, because again, symbolically, they do represent something else. There's a tendency to see them as representing something else. And you also need to remember that serpents and snakes represent a number of other symbolic issues, and so all of that needs to be taken into consideration. And it brings into question quite a bit with respect to how and why this would be selected to represent medicine. And here you can see the word physician is included in scripture, and you can see that the word is pronounced iatros, and so that means physician. and you can see where it is included. And the usage basically is I heal, generally of the physical, but sometimes of spiritual disease. And so the focus is on this idea of healing. You can also see down in the lower right-hand corner this word iatrogenic, and basically that means illness relating to a medical examination or a medical experience, sort of like nosocomial infections that we talked about before. And here's a little bit more background in terms of the etymology of physician. And so you can see that there really is this focus on healing. So a physician is considered a healer, a person who practices the art of healing disease and preserving health. And one thing that distinguishes this from psychology is this focus on natural science and sort of the natural world, and so the tangible, the physical. While medicine is generally referred to as a science, medicine is also known as an art. And so it is the art of medical treatment, the art of curing and healing, creating potions, creating remedies in order to heal the body. Medicine also has a history related to religion, in addition to what we already read, and the practice of magic. And so in terms of early history, the first doctors were those considered medicine men, or the witch doctors, or the sorcerers in a particular community. And so you also have information about some ancient doctors, and you have an ancient physician, Imhotep. And so you can also see that this individual is related to the Greek god Asclepius. And so you can see that symbol off to the left with the serpent wrapping around the stick. You can see that that's related to not only Greek mythology, but also Egyptian history. Medicine is also related to the word pharmacy, and the root of pharmacy relates to a medicine that rids the body of excess humors historically. And so it revolves around this idea of treating with medicine, the practice of treating with medicine. And words that are used to describe pharmacy are things like pharmacia, pharmakia, pharmakos, pharmacon. And so you also have this idea of using poisonous herbs or drugs or poisonous potions or magic potions, chemical processing in order to bring about this healing. And so you also have this idea again of historically creating charms and spells and sorcery in order to bring about this change in the physical body. Now we're going to quickly look at psychology. We're going to look at the symbolism for psychology. And as already indicated, the symbolism, history, background of psychology is a lot less intriguing in terms of comparing it with medicine. And so it's a lot more straightforward, basically. And so you see here the symbolism for psychology. It's just basically the letter in the Greek alphabet, psi. And so you can see the symbolism off to the right-hand side, and that's the root of psychology. And as a reminder, I am a psychologist, not a physician. And so when you look in scripture, you see psychology mentioned in scripture, that root, and it's pronounced psyche. And it basically just means breath and the soul, the vital breath of life, the human soul, the soul as the seat of affections, the self, the human person, the individual. And so unlike medicine, psychology is really talking about what is intangible, what you cannot see. And so you think about breath, you think about the soul of a person, you think about affections. Those are things that you can't actually touch, in contrast to medicine and what takes place in terms of medicine. And here you have additional discussion about this word in scripture. And you can even see the symbol down there. It's underlined, a little purple there. You can see the symbol that's included in scripture. And so again, it's not as filled with intense symbolism like medicine is. And here you can see the transliterated word and the phonetic spelling again there. And you can also see the lettering up top. And here is additional scriptural discussion about Suke. Basically, again, it means breath, and it's talking about the vital force, vital life force, about being a living being, a living soul. Again, the seat of feelings and desires and affections, about what people would consider the heart. And so the human soul, the essence of the person. And here you see discussions about the etymology of psychology, and you see that it means animating spirit, again, coming from the Greek psyche, meaning the soul, the mind, the spirit, the life, one's life, personality. And so those are the things that you tend to think of when you think about the roots of psychology and psyche. As we wrap this up, you can see a little bit more of the contrast between medicine and psychology, where medicine involves the study of the body and healing. Psychology involves the study of the soul, the study of the mind, the study of the heart condition, the study of the personality, and also the study of behavior, which would be the manifestation of what's going on in the inside of a person. And so you can see that there are some similarities, but you can also see that there are some significant differences. And the symbolism, again, is very different. The symbolism for psychology basically is related to the letter in the Greek alphabet. That would represent psyche or psi, whereas medicine's symbolism is a little bit more involved. It seems like it's disconnected when people first look at it, but then when you look at the history of the word medicine and you look at pharmacy and all that's involved in that in terms of the history of it all, then that symbolism with the serpents, the snakes, and all of that symbolism related to phallic symbols, it might make a little bit more sense. But again, it's important to understand the distinctions even while you're understanding some of the similarities. And also with medicine, there's more of a focus on the physician doing the healing, whereas in psychology, the focus is on the psychologist facilitating the individual pretty much healing self. And going forward, as we discuss issues that are of a psychological nature, I will put up the psychology symbol so that you will know we're talking about psychology. When it is something that involves medicine, I will put up the medical symbol, either the caduceus or the other rod, so that you know clearly that that's what we're talking about. And if it involves both, then I can put up symbols for both of those so that it makes it pretty clear. If you have any additional thoughts or questions or comments or reflections related to either of these or even something else, you can put it in the comments section. Remember, knowledge is power. Take care. See you soon.